Okay, let's jump right in. We're doing a deep dive today into something, well, something we all encounter, gossip.
Right. And the source material we looked at tackles it, but maybe not how you'd expect. It actually starts us off
Yeah.
in an orchard.
Yeah, an orchard, which at first glance seems kind of disconnected. But the analogy they build is really, really powerful.
It is. It talks about this father's place, grapes, apples, peaches, like this picture of potential abundance, but there's this threat, fire blight.
Fire blight. And it's such a spot-on metaphor for how gossip works, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's bacterial. It makes the leaves just shrivel up, turn brown, and if you don't catch it, it gets right into the core, the trunk,
Yeah.
and the tree. It just stops producing, stops bearing fruit.
And here's the kicker, the part that really mirrors gossip. The bacteria, it doesn't die in the winter, it just waits. It survives the cold, ready for spring.
Wow, that's insidious. So how does it spread?
Well, that's the twist. It spreads mainly through the bees, the very things the orchard absolutely needs to thrive.
The pollinators. They're supposed to be carrying life, right, making sure everything grows.
Exactly, they're a blessing. But,
how-
and this is the core idea, if the tree itself is unhealthy, those same bees, they pick up the disease, the fire blight, and carry it, blossom to blossom.
Wow, so our words, they're the bees.
That's the premise. Our words, what we say, what we choose to listen to, they can be like that honeycomb the sources mention, bringing sweetness and life, or...
Or they carry the poison. They pollinate with grace, or they spread the disease.
Precisely.
So we need to define that poison. The source material calls the words of a gossip HEISS morsels. Honestly, that phrase, it felt a bit clunky. Like, what am I picturing there?
Yeah, I get that. It's not the most intuitive term, maybe. Think of it less like a substantial meal and more like, ooh, cheap candy.
Okay, cheap candy. Like those little sugary things.
Exactly. Small, they taste good for a second, super tempting, easy to just pop in your mouth, instant gratification, but not much substance.
It satisfies that immediate curiosity, that little urge.
Right. So the whole point of this deep dive is to unpack why that quick, sweet hit is actually so damaging. And, importantly, how we stop our own bees from spreading that blight.
Which leads straight to the why. Why is it so tempting? Why do we even want that cheap candy? There was some Stanford research mentioned.
Yeah, the Stanford study found gossip feels genuinely thrilling.
Thrilling. Why thrilling?
Well, because knowing something, sharing something that maybe others don't know, it makes us feel, well, special, plugged in. You get that little hit, like, I'm in the know.
Okay, that makes sense. The source is careful here, right? It draws a line.
A really crucial line. We're not sitting here judging everyday social sharing. Catching up, building community connection, that's normal. That's vital.
This isn't about pointing fingers. It's about looking inward. When does that sharing, that curiosity, tip over into something destructive?
It tips over when it becomes deceptive. It tastes sweet, like that candy, but the sources say it sinks deep into a person's inmost parts.
Yeah.
And once it's in there, it actually shapes how you see people, how you treat them.
So it's not just harmless talk. It actually changes things.
It absolutely does. Like that infected pollen, it doesn't just land and stop, it spreads. It degrades the whole environment, the relationships. And the sources don't mince words here. They use terms like whisperer, talebearer, slanderer.
Sharper edges on those words.
Yeah.
It really underscores that this isn't new either. Long before the internet can make things go viral.
Oh, yeah. Juicy, negative info. It always found a way to spread fast. It seems almost baked into, well, into us.
Which brings us back to motives. Why do we do it? Sometimes it's just blowing off steam, right? Venting.
Sure, sometimes it is just frustration or anger bubbling over, or maybe wanting to fit in, not be left out of the loop.
But often
Yeah.
the source suggests there's something deeper.
Like feeling superior.
That seems to be a big part of it, that psychological hook. Being in the know is part of it, but underneath. Yeah, maybe there's that unspoken thought, well, I'd never do that. I'm handling things better than they are.
So gossip becomes this subtle way to puff ourselves up by pushing someone else down. It really can be. And the sources give us some pretty clear markers, ways to identify when conversation crosses that line. Beyond the feeling, beyond the motive, what actually makes it gossip? What turns it into fire blight?
Okay, marker number 1 seems really clear-cut. It breaks trust.
Yes. The source material is very direct here. Real gossip, destructive gossip, always involves betraying a confidence.
Always. And it doesn't matter if the story's true or not.
Doesn't matter if someone trusted you with something private, or even if it's just obviously private information and you whisper it, share it when you shouldn't. Trust is broken. confidence betrayed.
And we all know that little dance, don't we? It often starts with, hey, did you hear?
Hmm.
And it almost always ends with, but don't tell anyone else. That little tag on basically confirms you both know you're crossing a line.
That's exactly it. And the second marker is about spreading negativity. It's any conversation that tears down someone who isn't there to speak for themselves.
So that includes sharing stuff you haven't even verified,
Yeah.
or just harping on someone's flaws.
Yes, especially if there's no constructive point. If you're not trying to genuinely help or reconcile or maybe protect someone from actual harm, if it's just criticism or negativity about someone who isn't present, the sources say that's tearing down.
That really raises the stakes, doesn't it? If we're
Mhm.
sitting around talking about someone's mistakes or weaknesses behind their back,
Mm.
what are we actually doing in that moment?
Well, according to the sources, we're stepping onto really dangerous ground. When we judge someone harshly, especially when they can't defend themselves, we're essentially putting ourselves in the place of, well, the ultimate judge.
Wow. Playing God with someone's reputation.
That's kind of the implication, yeah. The source material connects our words, our speech, directly to like our moral responsibility. It says our words either protect our neighbor's dignity, their standing, or they endanger it, they crash it.
We're making a choice in that moment. Endanger or protect.
Every single time. And there's a cost to that choice, not just for the person being talked about, but for us.
Right, the internal cost. The source warns about that measurement thing.
Yeah.
With the measure you use, it will be measured to you.
Exactly. That's a huge warning.
Yeah.
So it's not just about harming someone else's reputation. We're setting the standard for how we ourselves will be treated. We're kind of poisoning our own well.
It becomes this self-inflicted wound. The negativity sinks into us. It shapes who we become. More critical, maybe more cynical.
I think so. Quick to find fault. And that's why the sources argue just gritting your teeth and saying, I won't gossip anymore. That's usually not enough.
Willpower alone won't cut it.
Probably not, because the pull is strong. That need to belong or maybe feel a bit superior. It's powerful. We need some practical guidance, help from the divine gardener, as the source puts it.
Okay, let's get practical. Tools. Because we all find ourselves on the listening end sometimes, maybe even pulled in before we realize it. There's this STOP method, S-T-O-P.
Right, so S is for silence the spread.
Silence the spread, meaning
Meaning, don't add fuel to the fire. The sources quote that proverb, without wood, a fire goes out. Without a gossip, a quarrel dies down. Gossip needs fuel. If you're listening, don't be the wood. Just
Yeah.
stop it there. Silence is often the best first response. Quarantine it.
Okay, don't repeat it. Got it. T is turn the conversation.
Mm.
Now, this one feels tricky. Interrupting someone.
Yeah,
It sounds, I don't know, really awkward when I just sound self-righteous.
that's a really fair point. And yeah, it can be awkward. Nobody wants to be that person. The key is how you do it right. It's got to be gentle, loving, not about making yourself look good.
So how would that sound practically?
Maybe something like, I really care about person's name, but maybe it's better if we don't talk about them when they're not here, or even softer. Hey, can we maybe switch gears? I was wanting to ask you about X. Just gently redirecting.
Redirecting. Okay, that feels a bit more doable than hard stop. Now, O is offer clarifying questions and prayers. How does asking questions help?
Questions are powerful because they gently challenge the narrative without being confrontational. They protect the person's dignity by introducing nuance.
Like what kind of questions?
Simple things like, is that confirmed? Or, is it possible there's more to the story? Maybe some context we're missing. And the big one, often, wow, that sounds serious. Have you had a chance to talk to them directly about it?
That last one, that probably stops things pretty quickly.
It often does because it puts the responsibility back where it belongs. Asked kindly, it's very effective.
And all of this leads to P, which is the outcome. Protect the person's dignity. Be a guardian for the person who isn't there.
That's the goal. Now that's for the listener. What about when we're the ones tempted to speak? Before the words come out.
All right, the self-check. The source gives us 3 critical questions to ask ourselves.
Okay, question 1.
Is this something I should actually be talking to the person about directly?
Ah, good one. If the answer is yes, then why are you talking to someone else? You're avoiding the real conversation. Okay, question 2.
Is this personal information something the person themselves would be okay with me sharing?
Basically, would this cause them shame or embarrassment if they knew you were telling people? If yes, then it's likely off limits. And question 3?
The golden rule test, essentially. Is this the kind of thing I would want someone else sharing about me, especially if I wasn't around?
Oof. That one hits home. If you wouldn't want it said about you, don't say it about others. Simple, but hard.
It is hard. And it's hard because gossip is sneaky. It puts on disguises. It doesn't usually announce itself like a villain.
So true. It often comes dressed up as something helpful, doesn't it? Like, hey, just giving you a heads up about so-and-so.
Right. The helpful warning. Or maybe it's masked as concern.
Yeah, the classic, I'm just so concerned about poor so-and-so, and then proceeds to list all their perceived failings.
And maybe the trickiest one, especially in certain communities, the prayer request disguise.
Oh, that's a tough one. Sharing sensitive details under the guise of praying for someone, especially if they didn't ask for that specific information to be shared publicly. We can absolutely pray for people without broadcasting their struggles.
It all comes back to that choice, doesn't it? What kind of pollen are our bees carrying? What are our words actually transporting? There was that striking example in the source.
The one about the guy on social media?
Yeah, amidst all this online bitterness, someone attacks him, and instead of firing back, he just offered a blessing, chose grace instead of adding to the fire blight, even when provoked.
That takes incredible strength, but it shows it's possible. We have to remember the sheer power our words hold. That Morgan Blake quiz thing quoted in the source, it's chilling.
It really is. I am more deadly than a shell from a howitzer. I win without killing. I tear down homes, break hearts, and wreck lives. It just goes on. No regard for truth, no respect for justice.
It paints gossip as this invisible, destructive force, the fire blight spreading through the very channels or relationships or communities that should be bringing life.
So what's the final takeaway here? Can we ever really escape it?
Probably not entirely, no. As long as we're human and interacting, the temptation, the presence of it, will likely be there. But, and this is the hopeful part, in every single interaction, we have the power. We can choose.
Choose to stop the spread.
Yes. Choose to turn gossip into grace. Choose to carry the sweet honey that heals and builds up, instead of the blight that tears down.
And the source material suggested a kind of community agreement, right? 3 principles.
Yeah, like a simple covenant we could try to live by. First, we won't share stories we haven't confirmed. Stop the spread of rumors.
Okay. Second.
We'll make an effort to speak to people, not just about people. Go direct when there's an issue.
And third?
We will actively try to cover one another with grace. Assume the best, give the benefit of the doubt, protect reputations.
Don't share unconfirmed stories. Speak to, not about. Cover with grace. Simple, but transformative if we actually did it.
Absolutely. And maybe the way we approach other people's stories says a lot about the grace we expect for ourselves. Which leaves us with one last thought, something to really chew on after this conversation ends.
Okay, leave us with that provocative thought.
Just this. Before you start talking about someone else's story, take a second. Remember, there are probably pages in your own life story you would never want read out loud. Keep that in mind when you handle the stories of others.